cannot extend or retract something infinitely great or small in the material world. The material body of all living entities precludes the possibility to experience infinity. The body goes through 6 phases: birth, growth, maintenance or staying, giving off byproducts, dwindling, and death. Humans can conceive of infinity with intelligence, but they cannot experience it. The consciousness of the soul, consisting of the mind, intelligence, and false ego, entrapped in a temporary body, is subjected to material limitations and laws of material nature by ignorance. The fact that one can conceive of something infinite is possible because the consciousness in the body is a symptom of the eternal soul. But presently, the eternal soul misidentifies with the temporary body, and its consciousness becomes corrupted and limited. Although the soul is eternal and not affected by the changes of the body, it becomes entangled by attachment to temporary material pleasures and becomes artificially limited by material time, space, and thought. Lord Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, confirms, Avinasi tutadviti yena which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. The soul can experience eternity and infinity, but the material body, which includes the contaminated mind and intelligence covering the soul, cannot. The perplexing duality between the body and the soul is a major obstacle for self-realization. For those persons who strongly identify themselves with the temporary body, all descriptions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual world, and its eternal inhabitants is considered a fantasy of delusional people. The atheists are limited to the confines of a mortal body and adamantly rebuff spiritual knowledge propounded by Lord Krishna and other mentors of spirituality. The identification with the material body constrains one's potential for self-realization and the entrance back to the realm of immortality. The destiny of every living entity is to leave behind the specter of death and enter again into the eternal spiritual world. Why would anyone misidentify themselves with the material body and then, in a delusional state, pamper the body and ignore the immortal soul and its eternal destiny? It is a willful misstep that embroils one in an unending cycle of misery. Okay, so let's look up that verse 217. Avinasi tatadviti yena sarvam vidam kritam vinasam avyasya senakasya kartum arhati. And it said, okay, who wants to read?
Wait, where are we?
217.
217. You're in your house, that's right.
Translation. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body and part around the whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own mind. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul present is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as 1/10,000 parts of the upper portion of the hair from inside. The Svetasvatara Upanishad 5.9 confirms this.
Okay, well, let someone else read. Who wants to read that?
I can read first.
Balavrasatavagastya satadapapitasya cha vago jiva savavijneya sachano Sachanantyaya kapate.
Good.
When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again, each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts. Each part is a measurement of the dimension of the super soul, spirit soul. Similarly, the same version stated, Keshagra Satabhavasya Satam Sa Sadrishatmaka Jiva Sukshma Swarupoyam Samkhya Tato Chitkana. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms, which are measured as 1/10,000 of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This way, small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as the influence of an active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. This current, therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. The Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.9, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is extent.
Okay, stop. Materialists and the atheists and the scientists, they say that everything is made of matter. They reject the soul, and they say matter. At some point of evolution. And then they're also saying that we can gradually, through artificial intelligence, recreate a soul at one point, just by science and digital technology. You see. So, when you go to school, they're going to teach you that science deals with reality, and religion deals with fantasy. And you can believe anything you want when it comes to religion, but it's not compared to science. Science is reality. And actually, it's exactly the opposite. Science is fantasy, and genuine spiritual knowledge is given in the midst. Now, how do we know that? Okay, first of all, scientists have never seen an atom. They just postulate, like Niels Bohr's. He postulated that an atom has electrons and neutrons and protons and other subatomic particles, and they're all spinning around. But no one's ever seen it. They just postulate. And then other people postulate, no, they're not atoms, they're waves of energy, like light and electromagnetic waves. So, if you look at this table, does it look like anything is moving in this table? Does it look like a wave? And so you see, they'll say, well, no, if you go look very carefully at this table, it's made up of an infinite number of atoms, and they're all moving. Does it look like it's moving? So, it's very confusing to figure out what is the nature of matter. What is it exactly? Now, that's already confusing. What does it say here? It says that the soul is a spiritual atom smaller than what? Smaller than the material atom. So if they can't see the material atom, how are they going to see the spiritual atomic soul? But yet there's more evidence of the soul's existence because consciousness in the body. Like if I pinch somebody, they'll say, ouch. Right? Now, will they say ouch if I pinch any part of their body? Like if I pinch the toe, will they say ouch? No? Should we do an experiment? You come here, I'll pinch your
Don't pinch it
toe.
hard.
No, I'm going to pinch hard. Are you going to say ouch?
Yeah.
Okay. If I pinch your ear, will you say ouch?
Yeah.
If I pinch your arm, will you say ouch?
Yeah.
Now, why is it that you're saying ouch even though I'm pinching you in different parts of your body?
Because you're still consciousness is spread all over the body.
That's what it says here. Consciousness is spread all over the body. That's what this verse says. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. So the soul is indestructible. Now, if I pinch a dead person's toe, will we say ouch?
No.
If I pinch his ear, will he say ouch?
No.
If I pinch his arm, will he say ouch? So why does the dead person not say ouch and you say ouch?
No consciousness in his body.
Right, something left the body. That's the conscious, which is the symptom of the soul. Now, this is easy to understand. It's not complicated, right? You don't have to be PhD to understand it. But yet, the scientists refuse to accept it. They say, no, there's no soul. That's religion, that's fantasy. There's just science and matter. That's all. Okay, so someone else can read. Who's going to read? Arush, you going to read? You know where it is? The soul is atomic in size.
The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air: prana, apana, dhyana, samaya, and prana. Is situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for kinds of air and the pure soul by different kinds of living processes. Not for a material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere.
Okay. Here he's explaining about Hatha Yoga. It's for controlling the airs in the body. There are different types of air. 5 types. And these different types of air are carrying the soul or moving the soul around. So those airs are contaminating the soul. It says that when the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, influence is exhibited. Okay. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air, encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures. But for liberation from the minute soul, from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So that now we come back to what we read in the 4th dimension. That the one thing that holds us back from spiritual realization is the fact that our soul is covered by a material body. And when we become attached to the body, it's to becoming self-realized. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, everybody I know is attached to their body. And that's true. And it's very difficult for people to think of being unattached to the material body and the extension of the body, like children and family members and the same ethnic group, the same nationality, and so forth. It's very difficult for people to imagine being separate or detached from these things. Well, these things are what keeps us in the material world in the cycle of birth and death. Now, is there a way of being detached but not, let's say, abusive to family members? Yes, there is. Because if you see only the body, then there can be attachment or detachment. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. I met this man on the 4th of July. He was a Lebanese gentleman. And he's very attached to his wife, he told me. And I said, what would happen? You tell me, what would happen that your wife, God forbid, has a terrible accident and becomes paralyzed? He said, I hope that never happens. I said, what would happen if it did? He said, well, I'd be very discouraged and I'd probably look for another wife. He told the truth. He told the truth. Because he's not really attached to his wife that much. He's attached to her body. He doesn't really, and by the way, he doesn't believe in her soul. He's a complete atheist. But he answered honestly, because he's so attached to the body, and if the body doesn't function, then he would lose his attachment. He'd look for another way. Yes. And this, but I'll tell you another story to counter that. There was this one devotee, an American devotee, but he married a girl from Guwahati. And Guwahati is an Assam, an Assamese girl. And she's a devotee. And he got over time, he got a debilitating disease by which he couldn't do anything. His wife had to help him to the toilet, she had to feed him, she had to dress him, she had to bathe him, she had to do everything for him. And in order to support the family, she had to work also. Right? She never left her husband. She always remained faithful to her husband, right up to when he died. But that period between when he was healthy and he died, that was like 35 years. So she was a devotee, so she did not just see the body, she saw the soul. So we see that by seeing the soul, one really has a chance of genuine love and genuine compassion and genuine, let's say, all good qualities. But if you see only the body, then, like this man, he told the truth. You know, if his wife was paralyzed, he would leave her and find her. He told the truth. Why? Because he doesn't believe in the soul. He only believes in the body. And if the body doesn't function, then find another body. So this is what holds people back from self-realization, this attachment to the body. You don't become abusive or calloused or mean if you become attached to the soul. You become more sensitive by being attached to the soul and by seeing the same soul, and seeing the soul in everybody, and seeing Krishna accompanying the soul as part of Mahatma. You become more sensitive. But if you see only the body, then it's like living in the jungle. It's survival of the fittest. So what usually happens in the jungle or in the forest, and you see this in early spring when they're little chicks, little baby birds, and they're completely dependent on the mother to go and find food and bring it, and usually they're blind for weeks. And then they have to learn how to fly and everything. So sometimes those little birds are very delicate, they get injured. Like they break a wing. The mother can't do anything. No one can save them. Only a human being can save the bird by taking it and protecting it. So those type of birds get eaten easily by cats and other predator animals. And so it's very mean. Nature is very mean in that sense. When you say mean, I mean it looks cruel. Right? Because there's situations where the mother, like for example, in our barn, one of the chicks fell out of the nest. There was a nest way up high in the barn. And one of the little babies fell out of the nest. There's no way the mother could get it back up. So one of us picked up the little bird, climbed up high into the ceiling, and put it back into the nest. Otherwise, the bird would have died. So, when we see, now why did one of us do that? Because we were seeing the soul of the bird. It's living just like us. And why should it be separated from its mother and separated from the only entity that can care for it? Another time we found out a bird with a wing that was seriously injured. So my daughter healed the wing, so the bird was able to fly again. So you see, there are situations that, like for example, one time one of my kids was playing with a neighbor's kid, an American kid, and he was putting lighter fluid into the anthill and lighting it. And then all the ants would burn. And they were laughing. So I went up to him and said, you shouldn't do this. He said, why? I said, because that's being cruel to the ants. So what? I said, so what? I said, they're living entities too. I said, how do you know that? I said, well, they're no different than you. If I pour lighter fluid on you, and set it on fire, what would you do? Oh, I would call the police. Well, yeah, so I'm going to call the police now on you. No, why are you going to do that? And he started crying, and he went home to his mother and told her, that I was being mean. And the mother came to see me, and she was upset. I said, look, you should not be telling them this. So why is that? I said, because those ants are living entities also. Why is he being cruel to them, setting them on fire? He has no empathy. If he grows up like that, he'll set people on fire. He'll do more nasty things like that if he gets away with it on this level. And she said, oh, I think you're right. She said, okay, well, thank you very much for instructing him, and I'll explain this to him. She was reasonable. So, unless we are able to see the difference between the body and the soul, we remain like that little boy who pours lighter fluid on the ants. Or like that man who, if his wife is paralyzed, he'll leave her and find some other wife. Because we don't see the soul, we only see the body. And when we look at ourselves, if we see it in the same way, we just see the body, and we're attached to the body, then we suffer. Because the body is subject to 3 kinds of suffering. You know the names in Sanskrit? Right. What is Adhyatmika? No. Adibodhika, misery is caused by other. And Adidevika, misery is caused by the devas, cataclysmic events. Right? So all of us are subject to these 3 types of misery. But those miseries only affect our body. It doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect the soul. But if we're attached to the body, then we become very affected by those 3 types of miseries. Okay.
Professor, one quick question. Like somebody intentionally killing those ants.
Yes.
Versus normally what happens in my house, sometimes I see a spider. So what I do is I put a weight, a tissue on top of it, and then I roll it, and then I take it, and then I throw it out.
Very good.
Instead of killing, I can't really kill it.
Yeah.
Yesterday what happened, there was a really big black spider was there. So I can't, I'm pretty scared to put the towel on it and then take it and out and throw it out.
Yeah.
So I got a rod and pull it down, and I was taking him out.
Yeah. And he died.
Outside. But later on he didn't move. He didn't move or something. So.
Oh no, they will play like they're dead.
Okay.
So that they'll play like they're dead. They'll sort of roll up and stop moving. And then when you're not looking, they'll go away. Or they're dead. They could be dead too if you hurt them. But usually they'll play dead.
Take it out as fast as I could, and then
Well, you might have hurt it, or it was playing dead, so you would leave it alone.
Normally, what should a householder do? If something, this kind of thing gets into your house, anyway, I can feel something.
I'll tell you what. It's very simple. You get a big jar, an open mouth, right? And you put it over it. It can be a spider. Yeah. Big ants like that sometimes. It can be a bug, like a cockroach. So, you carefully put it on top. Now you've got, it's not in the jar, but the jar, you can't move it. Then, carefully put a piece of paper on it. Right? Move it. No. Now it's on the piece of paper, right? Then you put your hand underneath and turn it over. Push them down, and then you close the jar. Now you got them. Now you can take them anywhere you want. Okay. Yeah. You have to be careful with paper. Don't lift the jar too high. Once you have the piece of paper, and then you can turn it over. Then it's on the bottom, and then you can close it. I know, I've done it many times. It works just fine. Because even in the temple, even in our rooms, way up, high, second floor, ants come up there. Big ants like that. And it's like you can't imagine how they did it. But they do it. See? Okay. So, now let's read the next paragraph called Entrapment in the Material World. A precise given in the Srimad Bhagavatam of the entrapment the living entity experiences in the material world. Yaya samhoito jiva atmanam trigunat paropi manute naratam tat kritam chavipadyate. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam 175. This one verse, succinctly, or very, let's say, short phrase, explains the reason why living entities suffer, how they can be liberated from it, and the unparalleled benefit of attaining spiritual perfection in the present and the eternal and in eternal existence. So you see how powerful the Srimad Bhagavatam is. This one verse explains why living entities suffer, why we suffer, how we can be liberated from suffering, and the unimaginable benefit of attaining spiritual perfection in the present and in eternal existence. Verse again. Due to this external energy, meaning the material energy, although transcendental, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, that's sattva, rajas, and tamas, thinks of himself as a material product, meaning like the scientists, they think the body is just made of matter. There's no soul. And thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. In other words, we suffer because of a misconception of who we are. Don't stick your finger in your mouth. What are you going to do now? Yeah, are you going to touch everything? You just touch the floor twice. Your finger. Okay. So, we can see that the real cause of our suffering in life is not the body. It's thinking that I am this body. That's the real cause of suffering. Thinking that I am this body. Because when we think I am this body, then we become attached to it. And anything that happens to the body affects us. If we understand I'm not the body, actually, I'm the soul. Okay, pain. If someone pinches you, yes, but you'll be able to tolerate it because you know it's not you. So, sometimes when people, like for example, Jesus was being persecuted. Haridas Thakur was being persecuted. He was being beaten in 21 right? And beaten very hard with sticks and other things by Muslims. Why were they beating him? Because he was a Muslim, but he was a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So, even today they do the same thing. If you're in a Muslim country and you convert to another religion, oh, they'll harass you, they can put you in jail, or they can just beat you and kill you. Teach you a lesson that you're not allowed to convert from Islam to any other religion. Or else if you marry someone outside of Islam, then they kill both. They kill both people. It happens in Bangladesh. And it can happen in any of the Muslim countries. So, they were beating Haridas like they wanted to kill him, right? But he was meditating all the time on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and chanting Hare Krishna. And the more they beat him, the louder he chanted Hare Krishna. They were shocked. And when they came to the 21st market, as hard as they could, then they begged him to please, we know you're a saint, so why don't you just die? Because if you don't die, we're going to die. The Nawab told us that if we don't kill you, we're going to die. And we have families, we have children. So Haridas said, oh, then I don't want you to feel any discomfort. So he died. In other words, he went into a state of samadhi, stopped breathing. So the Nawab came to make sure he was dead, and he looked at him and he kicked him, and he didn't move. So he said, okay, he's dead. Throw him in the river, in the Ganges. So they threw him in the Ganges. And he went down the river, and he came out of the river. And that night, he went back to the village where he was beaten, or the town where he was beaten. And he knocked on the door of the Nawab. And when the Nawab started shaking, you're dead. He said, no, I'm not. I'm not dead. He said, but you're going to be dead soon. No, please, I'm sorry. He's like freaked out, And of course, you should never do anything like this again to Vaishnavas. And then later, Haridas Thakur went to see Lord Chaitanya, and when the Lord saw him, he was very pleased. And then he turned his back to him. And on the back of the Lord, he saw that all the beating that he received, the Lord accepted it on his body. That's why he was not affected by it. And he just, completely, he was already surrendered to the Lord, but he completely was overwhelmed when he saw that the Lord had actually accepted all that beating on his back. So, this sounds like, some people go, those are your stories. Every religion has their stories. But they're just stories. Well, no, they're not just stories. We all come from monkeys, that's a story. A fictional story. Right? And by the way, I asked this man on the 4th of July, I said, you believe you have a monkey in your family? Yes. I said, you just insulted your family. So what do you mean? I said, look, I don't have any monkey in my family, and I know they're very proud. You just insulted your whole family and your whole dynasty by saying you have a monkey in your family. And he just smiled. Because he knows what I was saying is true. He doesn't have a monkey in his family. But because they went to college and they read about Darwin and everything, they start talking crazy. It makes no sense. Right? He actually said, I have a monkey in my family. Is that stupid people get? The more education they get, the more stupid they get. Okay, so we'll read this now. So when he mentions the material nature, the external energy, and he says that the living entity is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. In other words, transcendental to sattva, rajas, and tamas. Don't put the Bhagavad Gita in your mouth. It's not a sandwich. Huh? You're getting really close. It's for reading. It's not for eating. It's not for chewing on. Okay? Don't put it near your mouth. Put it on the ground. Don't let your feet touch it. Yeah. Okay, so it says, due to this external energy, meaning the material energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks himself as a material product, thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. This is a very important verse. It explains why people suffer. This one verse explains the reason why living entities suffer, how they can be liberated from it, and the unparalleled benefit of attaining spiritual perfection in the present and in the eternal existence. The eternal soul is not subject to suffering or any material effect that may be experienced in mundane space and time. It is only when the soul mistakenly identifies with the temporary body, which is bound by the three modes of nature, time, karma, birth and death, vexing dualities, unending desires for sense gratification, etc., that it suffers. In other words, attachment to the body, or identifying with the temporary body, as oneself. Well, the body is subject to the three modes of material nature, to time, to karma, to birth and death, to dualities, to unending, and then more things besides that. I didn't name them all. I will later on. So, therefore it suffers. Therefore a person suffers because of these false attachments. Although the soul and the body are completely different, they become connected by the subtle false ego that wrongly identifies with the body. Then whatever happens to the body affects due to ignorance. The real ego identifies itself as the eternal servant of Lord Krishna. Okay, so I've given this example before, but let's go over it again. It insults you, Advait. Can you point to where it hurts?
Yeah.
You can't? Do you feel some hurt?
Yeah.
If you have a toothache, can you point? So, what is it that feels hurt when you get insulted?
Your ego.
Your ego?
Your consciousness. Your soul.
False ego?
The false ego. There's a real ego and a false ego. What's the real ego? Okay. And what's the false ego?
False ego is that we're the controllers of
Yeah.
We're the controllers.
Yeah. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in matter. And the purpose of life is sense gratification. So your false ego is identifying with matter, and the real ego is identifying with Krishna. Okay, so this false ego, it's how you're to the body. It's by misconceptions that enter into the mind, and then by believing in them and acting on them, you develop this false ego. And then you get connected to matter. So whatever happens to the body from that point on affects you. If you don't have a false ego, you only have a real ego. Just like Haridas Thakur, he had the real ego. He knew, I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. These people are beating me, but they're not my enemies. I don't consider them my enemies. They're doing this out of ignorance. And I'll just tolerate it. And because he was like that, Lord Chaitanya protected him. Krishna protected him. But when we are attached to the body and we false ego, then who's protecting us? Nobody. Nobody's protecting us. We're alone in this ocean of misery, and every little thing that happens to the body. Like one time, there was a man who wanted the tattoo of a chicken on his back. So he went to one of these tattoo parlors. Have you seen places like that? Have sign outside tattoo. So he went to the tattoo parlor and he came in, and the owner said, "Yes, sir. What would you like?" He said, "I want to have a chicken on my back." I said, "No problem. Just sit down in a chair. Take off your shirt." So then the tattoo man, he got his needles ready. And he said, "How big you want the chicken?" He said, "Oh, I got a big back. Let's do a 12-inch chicken." I said, "Oh, that'd be good." He said, "That would be a big chicken." So he said, "You ready?" He said, "Yeah, I'm ready. Go right ahead." So he put the first needle on his back. He said, "Ouch!" He said, "What was that?" He said, "I'm starting the tattoo." "But what part of the chicken was it?" Well, I was going to do the right wing. Just leave it out. It hurt too much. I said, okay. So then again, he goes, ding. I said, ow! He said, what was that? He said, I'm starting on that was the right wing first. You said not to do it, so it's going to be a chicken without a right wing. So I'm working on the left wing now. I said, it hurt too much. Just leave that out. I said, okay. And we're like, ding. He said, ow! What was that? He said, well, I left out the right wing. I'm leaving out the left wing. Now I'm working on the next. It hurt too much. Leave it out.
What?
I said, okay. And he went like that. Ow! He said, what was that? He said, I was working on the stomach. Just leave it out. He said, wait a minute, I give up. He said, why? He said, even God can't make a chicken like the one you want. So you see, people that are very attached to the body, even a little pinprick is too much for them. They can't take any pain. Therefore, people are getting all kinds of drugs so they don't feel pain. Because they're too attached to the body. Just like you're afraid of spiders, right? Right. Actually, a spider's more afraid of you. That's the truth, right? It just wants to, be left alone so it can do its business. Actually, he's trying to help you. He's eating bugs in your house.
Basically, I'm afraid of anything which has unpredictable movement.
The spider is predictable. Spiders are predictable. They're just waiting for a bug to land on their web, and then they get stuck on it. And the spider comes and kills them, and then wraps them up, and then hides them somewhere, and it goes back and waits again. It's not after you.
Look, probably I wouldn't want like dead wrapped bugs in my house.
Well, they're dead. They can't do anything to you. It's the food for the spider. Now, I'm not saying anything. I'm just telling you, spider is predictable. He's not going to come move around your bed or anything. He'll be up in that corner over there. He'll make his web, and he just waits for the bugs to go there, and that's his living.
Yeah, so we sleep on the floor, so I feel like afraid in case it will fall and then.
They're not going to fall. They don't fall. The baby spiders might come when they're born. They might come to find a new home. As soon as they find their space, they don't care about you. They can't eat you. You're not their food. Their food is bugs. Okay. So, next, peace of mind. Bhuktaram yagyatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram sridam sarva bhutaram yatvamam santim richati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material nature. This is called the peace formula. If you want to have peace, then you should learn this verse. So let's look at this verse, 5th chapter, 29th verse. 5th chapter, 29, and instead of eating your Bhagavad Gita, you can read Krishna.
5 what?
529.
You want to read it?
529. Got it?
521 or 29?
29.
Okay.
Read. In Chinese. You can translate it to Chinese. Go ahead.
Me? Translate it?
Yeah, your name is Krishna too, isn't it? No, you don't have to translate to Chinese. Just read the English.
The translation?
Yeah.
Can I read the purport too?
Yeah, but start.
A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerity, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. What does pangs mean?
Pain.
Oh.
Suffering. Pang is suffering from material miseries. Go ahead.
The conditioned souls within the clutches of the illusory energy are
all anxious to attain peace in the material world. But they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of the Bhagavad Gita. The greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. Men should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord because He is the proprietor of all planets and the demigods therein. No one is greater than He. He is greater than the greatest of the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. In the Vedas, Vishvara Upanishad 6.7, the Supreme Lord is described as Tamishvara Paramam Maheshwara. Under the spell of illusion, living entities are trying to be lords of all they survey, but actually they are dominated by the material energy of the Lord.
Okay, stop for a second. Prabhupada explains, and the Acharyas explain, the more you try and dominate nature, the more you become a victim of nature. Now, if you explain this to Mr. Bezos, who's one of the main owners and the CEO of Amazon, he might laugh. What do you mean? The more I dominate nature, the more I enjoy. But actually, the more you become a victim of nature. Or how does it say here?
Under the
Spell of illusion, living entities are trying to be lords of all they survey, but actually they are dominated by the material energy of the nature, the Lord. So, all the great leaders in the past, all the rich people, all the powerful people, they all got old, they all got sick, and they all died. And they didn't take anything with them. They went to death with empty hands. So the more you're dominated by the material energy, the more you're trying to dominate it. Go ahead. The Lord is the
Lord
master.
is the master of material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. This is the sense of Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna is the supreme predominator, and all living entities, including the great demigods, are his subordinates. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Krishna consciousness. The 5th chapter is a practical
Okay, again, what is Prabhupada doing here? What is Krishna trying to do here? Explaining to Arjuna, he's trying to weed out all the false conceptions in the mind of Arjuna and the living entities. People become puffed up due to their false ego and their limited success in dominating nature. And they start thinking that, I'm the doer, I'm the enjoyer, and if I get better and better at this, I'll become God also. So, you can never attain peace as long as you're attempting to dominate nature and exploit it for your own sense gratification. As long as we're attached to sense gratification as the goal of life, we get more and more dominated by it, by nature. Go ahead.
The 5th chapter is a practical explanation of Krishna consciousness, generally known as Karma Yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how Karma Yoga can give liberation is answered herewith. To work in Krishna consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is the path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Absolute, and the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So, if you look in your life, let's say your life in public school, do you know anyone that's working with the idea that they have a relationship with Krishna or the
Apart
Supreme?
from one of my friends, no.
Well, what's your friend say?
Shritan.
Oh, Shritan, yeah. That's not fair. He's a devotee.
Or other than that, nobody.
That's the point. Very few people are working with the knowledge that they are part and parcel of Krishna, with a relationship with Krishna. So therefore, they don't know how to work. By working without that relationship with Krishna, they become more and more conditioned or entrapped by material nature. But when you work with a definite relationship with Krishna, that means you know who Krishna is, you know who you are, you know what the material nature is, and you understand that you should use everything in your life in the service of Krishna. Then you're no longer entrapped by material nature, by the modes of material nature, by time, by karma, by illusion, etc. Go ahead.
So I have to understand that I'm the servant of Krishna and Krishna is the supreme personality.
And he's the supreme predominator.
Yeah, and everybody's a soul.
Everybody's a soul and everybody's a servant of Krishna. If they don't serve Krishna, then they're serving themselves and their own false ego. And they get more and more entangled in material nature. Yes, go ahead. A pure soul
A pure soul and the eternal servant
is
the eternal servant of God as his fragmental part and parcel. He comes into contact with Maya, illusion, due to the desire to lord it over Maya.
due to the desire to lord it over Maya.
And that is the cause of his many sufferings.
So as soon as we have a desire to control illusion, the illusory material nature, we become entrapped by it. Just like there, let's say for example, okay, there was a thief in Florida, and he went into a house of some person, and he was stealing things, and the alarm went off. And the guy jumped out the window and started running. And then the police came 5 minutes later, and the owner of the house said, he ran down that street over there. So the police went down that street, and they ended up in a dead end because there was a lake there. And they didn't see anything, you know. And it was, you know, it was a lake, it was a little forest, it was dark. So the police came back, they said, well, we'll take down the information here, and we'll come back tomorrow when there's more light and bring some dogs with us and everything. And all of a sudden I heard some guy screaming, "Help! Help!" They didn't know what it was. So the next morning they came back and they had their dogs, and the dogs were sniffing around. And they found the body parts of this guy. Or at least they found body parts, you know, like an arm and a leg, but they, you know, the arm wasn't connected to the body, the leg wasn't connected to the body. And then they understood, they had a hunch what happened. The guy jumped into the lake to hide, and an alligator ate him. Right? Now, how dumb can you be, right? This is Florida, where there's plenty of alligators, right? You got to be really stupid, and it's the middle of the night. And to get away from the police, he jumps into the lake so no one can see him, and the alligator ate him. Right? And then later on, they caught the alligator, and they killed it because, you know, when the alligators start eating human beings, they're very dangerous. They killed it. They caught him open, and there were parts of the body in the alligator's stomach also. Then they were able to identify who he was. So you see, he was trying to dominate. He went into somebody's house and he was robbing them. And all of a sudden, the alarm goes off. He panics, he jumps out, starts running, and he knows the neighborhood somewhat. So he goes jumps into the lake thinking no one will see him. The alligator ate him. So, we should never think that we can dominate nature. It's not possible. Nor should we want to dominate anything. We should. Now, does that mean you do nothing? No. We should learn how to use everything in Krishna's service. Then we're not trying to dominate. We're just simply serving the Lord. And we should accept the minimum for ourselves. And you'd be surprised what the minimum is. The more you become advanced spiritually, the less you need to live. You downsize in a very intelligent way, and you're much happier. And you don't have, you're healthier, you're happier, you have peace of mind. Now I'm going to tell you something. Today I read an article in the news. It was an article written by a big scientist. He was asked by some very, very wealthy people, some of the most wealthy people in this whole world, to come and give a speech about the future of technology. This guy's a big tech guy, right? And he's very famous, a PhD. But he's a scientist. He's not into the commercial end of technology. He's in the scientific end. So he's big brain. So these rich people invited him in Europe. They were having a meeting. These are some of the richest people in the whole world. So he's writing about it. And he said, when I went there, I was expecting that they would start asking me what are the new trends in technology, so that they can, figure out where they can invest their money, in the next wave, ahead of everyone else. Because this guy knows he's a top researcher in technology. He said, but I was surprised. They were not so interested in what is going to be the next wave in technology. Rather, they started asking me very strange questions. They wanted to know which part of the world would be the least affected by climate change. And they asked me about New Zealand, and they asked me about Alaska. Of course, that's not my expertise, And then they started asking me about when the event happens, where would be the best place for them to take refuge? Now, he had to explain what they meant by the event. The event is when there's going to be, an economic, a ecological collapse. Ecological means the environment collapses because of global warming. All these guys believe in global warming, and they're sure that some cataclysmic things are going to, disrupt the whole world, or a war, a major war with atomic bombs, or a blast from the sun will completely wipe out all the electric grid around the world, or at least the United States. Or something like that. They call it the event. He said when that happens, they wanted to know about where would be the best place to build their bunkers. A bunker is an underground, high, very thick cement building, but it's underground, that even if an atomic bomb fell on it, people would still survive. Right? But their problem was they were thinking, they were thinking that, most people would be helpless, and they would be confused, and they wouldn't know where to go. So they have to have a highly protected place. So they were talking about Colorado, or they were talking about New Zealand, or Alaska, or here or there. And then they also were very concerned about their guards. They would have to hire guards. But they were worried that what if the guards, seeing the total chaos of society, decided to organize themselves and choose a leader? Would that leader try and subjugate them? So then they were talking about what kind of a electronic device could they put on around the necks of the guards that if they revolt, they would die immediately? You see how crazy people are? They're not interested in helping society. They're not interested in the mass of people that are going to be wiped out by such a cataclysmic event. You know, they call it the event. They're only concerned about themselves, and they can't even trust their own guards, right? You see what happens when you become like that? You become greedy, become narcissistic, in other words, you're only interested in yourself, and then you become fearful of everything. You see? And like selfish. And these are the richest people in the world. You see, this is the problem. See, the more they become rich, the more they have worries. Why? Because of that false ego that's so inflated, they can't imagine. And then also, they also talk about, they have their heroes. The heroes are the people who are going to make them immortal. So there's one very famous one called Kurt Weiler. And then there are others. There are 3 or 4. You know, one is going to make people immortal by downloading their brain into a computer and then putting that nano computer into a robot that looks exactly like them. And then they'll be immortal like that because the robot's body won't die. Of course, if Oleg Bashevsky in Belarusia hacks the robot, then they end up in a junkyard. But they're not talking about that. So then, or else they're talking about nano medical treatments, that these little nanomolecules can go through the bloodstream and heal everything that's sick in the body. Right? So in other words, they still want to have a body that's immortal and made of matter. None of them believe in the soul. None of these rich guys, highly educated people, PhDs, they don't believe in the soul. They want to perpetuate life in the body. It could be a robot body. It could be this body, but with nanotechnology to keep healing it every time it gets sick or old. Or replacing organs with artificial organs, plastic organs. You know, instead of going to Shucks auto body part, you go to Google body parts, right? Buy a new heart, a new liver, a new goal. It's unbelievable how foolish these people are. The more they get rich, the more they get powerful, the more they become foolish and believe in all kinds of nonsense things, right? And it's very selfish. So this is what's going on. This guy was a scientist. He wrote a very intelligent article really showing how stupid these people are. You know, and they're asking all kinds of crazy questions instead of really being interested in technology. They're not that interested. They're already wealthy. They're way beyond anyone's imagination of wealth. Right? Now they're worried about what's going to happen when the event happens. The event is total collapse of society due to either the environment or to war or to some event, a meteor hitting the earth. And, you know, yes.
Hare Krishna. I see on these TV shows that they say that because of global warming, the Earth's gonna have heat waves, and then my future will be ruined, and I'm gonna die.
You see that on television?
Yeah. Sometimes
You shouldn't watch so much television.
I don't watch.
You might get scared.
I just turned it on.
You might start believing in the event.
I just turned it on one day, and in school they're teaching me that global warming is gonna kill us.
Yeah.
It's gonna kill us.
No, what's going to kill you are misconceptions about life. Like, for example, if you ever read the story of Romeo and Juliet, have you ever read that? Well, you will. You'll get in high school, in college. Well, the story of Romeo and Juliet, they're two people that fall in love with each other, right? But at one point they're separated, and then Juliet gets some fake news that Romeo is dead. So because she loves him so much, she commits suicide. And when Romeo comes to see her, he sees that she's dead. And he's so shocked, he commits suicide. Right? And that's the story of Romeo and Juliet. There's a lot of other events that happen, but that's the main story. Okay? So, why did Juliet commit suicide? Because she got the wrong news, that Romeo was dead. You see. So in the same way, what are they doing? They're trying to scare you.
On the news, I see like heat waves will kill your future. Oh
No,
no.
they're trying to scare you. Why are they trying to scare you? Because they want to sell you 3 months of dry food to feed your family in case of a disaster. They want to sell you a bunker. Bunkers cost a lot of money. You know, they're making it into the ground. It's got to be thick concrete, radiation proof, this thing, that thing. You can spend more on the bunker than you do on the house. The house might cost $1 million. A bunker could cost you $3 million, right? Because you got to have, hot water. You have to have purified water. You have to have, cooking facility underground. You have to have electricity. And so all this is underground and deep underground. So you understand, when you get scared, you start making decisions that you wouldn't make normally, out of fear.
So heat waves aren't actually going to kill us. Like there won't be heat waves.
Like Romeo and Juliet, what's going to kill you is fake news. That's what's going to kill you, not the heat wave. What? I mean, there are heat waves right now. Are you dead because of them? It's 115 degrees in downtown Los Angeles right now. Are people dying? Yeah, a few people died, but most people are, they're living. If the Earth hasn't been destroyed, even though it's billions of years old, why would it be destroyed in the next 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years? The Earth is billions of years old. Right? It has definitely been, meteors have crashed into the Earth, and there's been global warming, and then global cooling, and then global warming again, then global cooling. The Earth has survived, and not only has survived, people have increased, population has increased. So why would it come to an end in the next 30 years or next week? Just like there is a Christian minister, he's saying that the Earth should have ended today because there was a partial eclipse today. And he predicted to his congregation, and it was in the news, the Earth is coming to an end today. Does it look like it came to an end? It was supposed to end around 8 o'clock today. Yes.
Prabhuji, you said like in...
By the way, let's say one more thing. In 1849, the Seventh-day Adventists said the world was going to come to an end, and all the Seventh-day Adventists, they came together on a mountain in Missouri, and they were waiting for the world to come to an end. Did it come to an end in 1849? No. In 1914, the leader of the Jehovah's Witnesses said that the world was going to come to an end. Did it come to an end in 1914? No. So, you see, all this end-time prophets, they're all nonsense. They're just trying to scare you so that you make decisions that you would not make normally, but out of fear you make them. Just like the world was going to come to an end in December 31st, 1999. Right?
Because 2000.
Yeah, and then everyone went into the forest and like...
Yeah, they did so many crazy things. Right? Did it come to an end?
Prabhuji, I have a question. Like every soul, like when you want to lord it over certain material things, unless we have a body, how do you see it? Because I have a body, I can see that is a thing which I want to do for myself and sense enjoyment or something. But when you are in the state of soul, can you still see things and
Soul
all?
has a body. Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Vigraha means body. But it's not made of blood, urine, and stool. It's made
That's
of
metal.
Sat Chit Ananda. Eternally bliss knowledge. Which are energies. Just like Earth is an energy, water is an energy, right? Air is an
But
energy.
it's so tiny, like, it's so atomic, right? That how this.
It's so atomic, but that thing is making your whole body alive. So why can't you have a spiritual body that's kept alive by this atomic soul? If your material body now is kept alive by an atomic soul, why can't it keep alive a spiritual body? You see?
So with that spiritual body, he thinks to, he sees the material energy and wants to enjoy this material energy at some point.
No. With the spiritual body, you're completely in love with Krishna. So you only, although there are families in the spiritual world, but you're only interested in working together to please Krishna. Just like in the temple, right? When there's a festival, everyone works together to please Krishna. Isn't it? But every day is a festival in the spiritual world. Every day. And the festivals get bigger and better all the time. Everyone's engaged. Somebody's making flower garlands, someone's making clothing, someone is worshiping deities, someone is singing, someone is dancing, someone is collecting things, someone is cooking, someone is building. All these things are going on in the spiritual world. But see, after the festival is over here, go back to work again, go back to this. But in the spiritual world, it's not like that. One festival ends, another one starts. It's always better and better. So you're never bored. Here you get bored. Festivals only happen every so often. Just like now, Ananda Mill is going on. So some of the kids are building a rock cart. Other kids are practicing dance. Other kids are practicing singing. Some people are making garlands. Some people are preparing the food for the festival. Some people, like myself, getting ready for tomorrow, the Derby Days, to give out a lot of invitations and have a booth. And so everyone's getting excited about Ananda Mela Festival, right? So you see, that's what the spiritual world is. It's one continual festival after another. So it's all happiness. No misery, because nobody has a material body. No one's trying to dominate. Everyone is happy to be dominated by Krishna.
So when a soul, like it's Paramatma, he sits in the heart of every individual.
Yes.
So heart.
There's no Paramatma in the spiritual world.
So as long as you have
Krishna
a
is there
material
in front
body,
of everyone.
you have a material body. With that, the heart actually is a muscle which is inside the body, and please understand that. But when the soul is out of the body, where Paramatma lives him directly, or he still is with him.
No, Paramatma is the soul of the soul. Already the soul is smaller than a material atom. Paramatma is smaller than your soul. It's present in your body, in your soul.
In the soul also.
Yeah. He's always accompanying the soul while in the material world. If you go back to Godhead, then Paramatma is not there. He's only in the material world. Krishna is there.
The soul has a spiritual body. And
So has a
Paramatma
spiritual
is
body, and
not.
you're able to see Krishna. See, now you're not able to see Paramatma. Because you have a material body, it's stopping you from seeing Paramatma. But the spiritual world, you're seeing Krishna all the time. Either you see Krishna in Dwarka, or you see Krishna in Mathura, or you see Krishna in Vrindavan, or you see Krishna in Vaikuntha, or you see Krishna in Ayodhya. Right? All those places are there, and all those manifestations of Krishna are there. Depends on how you want to serve the Lord. So there's never any boredom. There's just increasing happiness. Now, you can't really limit happiness if you have a spiritual body. You can only limit happiness if you have a material body. The material body limits your ability to be happy. In the spiritual world, you have a spiritual body. There's no limit to how happy you can be. You go up, let's say you have a small cup, a medium cup, and a big cup. So if you fill each to the top with water, that's their full capacity. Can't put any more in there. So according to your capacity of love for Krishna, you get full. Like the small cup, the medium cup, and the big cup. The small cup is not envious of the medium cup. The medium cup is not envious of the big cup because they're already filled to capacity. Right? So whatever capacity you have for Krishna, don't play with your feet. Wash your hands. Whatever capacity you have to love Krishna, if you attain that full capacity, then you're completely satisfied. Now, if you make a quantum jump from the small cup to the medium cup, well, okay, still you get full capacity again. So there's no envy in the spiritual world. Everyone's fully satisfied. And there's no end to the progression also. But that's what the fourth dimension is. Fourth dimension is length, width, and height are expanded infinitely. Here, length, width, and height are limited. In the spiritual world, it's expanded infinitely. That's what this book is about. So we'll go and see. You have to see a practical demonstration of all these verses in Bhagavad Gita. That's what this book is about. See the practical demonstration of what these verses mean. And mostly the verses are from Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions? We'll stop right there. And we'll continue in the Bhagavad Gita, but we'll read this book a little bit. It's a new book that I wrote. If you want to keep it, you can give a modest donation. You don't have to give it to me tonight. $4. That's what it costs to print it, $4. There's a lot of interesting things in here about how to attain this transcendental fourth dimension, where everything becomes unlimited. Next time. I don't want $20. You can give me next time. Thank you.
So Prabhu, for 217, it says that so it's controlled by the 5 pranas. So
those are contaminated.
I was like seeing as if they're controlling the soul unless you control them using yoga. I mean,
they contaminate the soul. Just like if you,
it's just contamination.
Yeah, if you have a mask over your head, you can't breathe properly. It would contaminate you in a sense, right? You can't function properly.
Okay.
That's what those hairs do.
So how does chanting kind of controls? I mean, they are saying Hatha Yoga there, but we do chanting and then all the principles. So that is my question.
The whole idea is to purify the consciousness of the person. As long as you're attaching to material things, the consciousness becomes limited. Limited to the body, the pains of the body, and so forth, to time, karma, to the roads of material nature. All these things are limiting the soul. So Hatha Yoga is to control the mind. It's the first big step to come closer to God. Because the mind is very uncontrollable. So all these exercises they do in Hatha Yoga, control the breathing, meditation, it's all to control the mind. You control the mind, you control the body. And the senses, because the mind is the center of the bodily experiences and the senses. But you can do the same thing by chanting Hare Krishna and do it with joy. Whereas the material way of doing it is yoga. The spiritual way of doing it is bhakti. And it's enjoyable. Whereas the material way of doing it is not so enjoyable. You know, I mean, you're going to sit down in a lonely cave for like 30 years and meditate. I mean, they say meditate 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, at night. I mean, that's nonsense. I mean, okay, you do it. It makes you feel a little better. It makes you sort of have a little more peace of mind. But real yoga is like over a long period of time, where your mind is completely free of any material attachments. It's not an easy thing to do. But by chanting and dancing, it becomes very easy. And feasting, chanting, dancing, feasting. It's not difficult, you know, and all based on serving Krishna. So you can achieve the same thing as the yogis are trying to achieve. But if we become attracted to something material, right, then we fall down. Just like Bharat Maharaj, although he achieved such a high level, high level of spiritual practice, he achieved the Baba level, where he began to feel ecstasy, coming close to Krishna. And he became attached to a little deer, and he fell down. He had to take birth as a deer. So, this Krishna consciousness is actually a very enjoyable way of controlling the mind and the senses and focusing them on Krishna. Unless we taste that joy, we never really, even in Krishna consciousness, we don't reach the goal. Why? Because we're still strongly attached to certain types of material things. So when we use all those material things in the service, I can't eat this, but
It's like what you.
all right. Unless we can take our mind away from all these material things and find full satisfaction in chanting and serving, we'll always be troubled. Now, the question is, we have a chance to attain perfection in this life. We already have lived many, many lifetimes. Wow.
Mataji got from Cherry.
Oh, really? Where?
It's,
Yakima?
that's where Meenakshi.
Wenatchee, yeah, Wenatchee.
Never had seen that cherry tree. I was so happy to see a cherry tree.
Full of cherries.